You don't have to pretend to be strong. You have to become unshakable. You don't have to act tough. You don't need to fake a smile, walk with forced confidence, or pretend you got everything under control. What you really need is a mind so steady, so anchored, that nothing, no insult, no failure, no chaos can throw it off course. A mind that doesn't rise and fall with people's opinions. A mind that doesn't panic when things collapse. A mind that's not dependent on applause to feel secure. That kind of strength, it doesn't roar. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply is. It moves through the world like a quiet storm, unshaken, focused, powerful. And when you have it, people will feel it. Not because you told them, but because your presence will say everything your words don't have to. Let's be honest. In a world obsessed with appearances, emotional display, and instant reactions, the calm mind is revolutionary and terrifying. Because nothing scares the crowd more than someone they can't manipulate. Let me ask you, have you ever been around someone who didn't need to prove anything? They didn't chase validation. They didn't defend their choices. They just existed fully, clearly, and with purpose. How did that feel? Maybe it unsettled you. Maybe it made you pause. That's the power of inner strength. And that kind of strength has existed long before modern hustle culture. It was forged thousands of years ago by warriors, by philosophers, by emperors. People who faced the chaos of their time and walked through it unshaken. All because they had something most people today are missing. Stoicism. Not as a trendy aesthetic. Not as some intellectual concept. But as a battle-tested framework for building an unbreakable inner world. This isn't just about thinking positive. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending not to care. Stoicism is about discipline, clarity, and courage. It teaches you how to hold your mind still when everything around you is pulling you to pieces. It shows you how to stop reacting and start choosing. How to stop craving and start living with enough. How to stop collapsing and start rebuilding from the inside. Let's get something straight. Life will break you if you let it. People will misunderstand you. Opportunities will disappear. Friends will leave. Plans will fail. But here's the question Stoicism forces you to ask every morning. Will I break with it? Or will I stand? Still. Silent. Focused. I'm moved by storms because I've prepared my soul to meet them. That's where this journey begins. And the first step. Loneliness. Because if you want a mind so strong it unsettles people, you must first learn to walk alone. Learn to walk alone because no one can carry your mind for you. There comes a point in your life quietly, inevitably, when you realize that no one is coming to save you. Not your parents. Not your friends. Not your mentor. Not the person you thought would never leave. And in that moment, you have two choices. You can collapse under the weight of loneliness, or you can let it sharpen you. Because here's the truth. You cannot build an unshakable mind in the arms of comfort. You cannot develop clarity when you're surrounded by noise. You cannot become self-reliant if you're always looking for someone to reassure you. So the Stoics practice solitude not to escape the world, but to train themselves to move through it alone. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, spent each morning in silence writing not for others, but for himself. In the dark, on the battlefield, with the world on his shoulders. He didn't post. He didn't vent. He didn't seek pity. He went inward. Because he knew if you don't tone your mind, the world will. And the world is very good at shaping people who don't know themselves. It will tell you who to be. What to want, what success should look like, what kind of life earns applause. And unless you've trained your mind in solitude, you will say yes to things that slowly kill your spirit. That's why walking alone is necessary. Not forever, but for long enough to remember who you are when no one is looking. To sit with your thoughts, your fears, your shame and not run. To stop performing. Stop pretending. Stop asking for permission to be whole. Because once you've done that, once you've walked alone through your own fire, you stop being afraid of being misunderstood. You stop fearing rejection. You stop molding yourself to fit rooms you've outgrown. Let me ask you something. How much of your time is spent avoiding solitude? You stay in relationships you've outgrown. You fill every quiet moment with content. You avoid silence because silence is where your real voice lives, and maybe you haven't heard it in a while. But the Stoics knew. Only in solitude do you meet the one person who never leaves yourself. And if you don't know that person, you'll always feel like a stranger in your own life. So let's make it practical. Here's your practice. 1. Spend 1 hour each morning or evening without input. No phone. No music. No conversation. Sit. Walk. Journal. Breathe. Feel the discomfort rise and let it pass. This isn't punishment. It's purification. 2. Ask one question repeatedly. Who am I when there's no one to impress? Write the answer. Then live by it. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. 3. Begin saying no. No to things that pull you off minus center. No to people who drain your energy. No to obligations that aren't aligned with your path. Because every no to what's not yours is a yes to what is. 4. Study your patterns. What do you do when you feel lonely? Scroll? Text someone you don't care about? Dive into distraction? Good. You found your edge. Now, instead of running, stay. Sit through it. Watch the wave. Let it break. And notice what emerges when the noise settles. Usually, clarity, direction, and most importantly, self minus respect. Because when you prove to yourself that you can walk alone, even for a little while, you stop fearing abandonment. You stop begging for attention. You stop needing constant validation. And from that place, you begin to walk differently. You enter rooms differently. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to apologize. Your calm says enough. Your presence becomes power. Not the kind that crushes others, but the kind that says, I've been alone. I've met my fear. I'm still here. That's why solitude matters. Not because it makes you superior, but because it makes you sovereign. And a sovereign mind is the most terrifying thing to people who rely on your confusion to control you. So start now. Not with grand declarations. With 5 minutes of silence. With a simple decision. I will know myself before I ask the world to understand me. That's the first step in building a mind so strong people feel it before you speak. Control your reactions because power belongs to the one who stays calm. Have you ever said something in anger that you wish you could take back? Or made a decision in fear that cost you time, money, or dignity? Have you ever felt completely hijacked by emotion, by pride, by ego, and watched yourself act like someone you didn't recognize? Of course you have. We all have. Because this is the unspoken reality. Most people are not in control of their lives. They're in control of nothing except how well they can hide the fact that they're being run by emotion. You've seen it. The boss who lashes out at the smallest mistake. The friend who ghosts you because of one misunderstood text. The person who explodes over traffic, then wonders why they're exhausted by 10 a.m. It's not the world that's raining down. It's their reactions. And if you don't learn to master your own, you will suffer not because life is unfair, but because your emotions are running the show. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Read that again. No one can make you angry. They can only offer the trigger. Your reaction? That's your responsibility. It sounds harsh because it is, but it's also freeing. Because if your emotions don't belong to them, they belong to you. And that means you can train them. You can choose clarity over chaos, stillness over spite, power over panic. Let me give you an image. Imagine your mind is a fortress. Most people, their gates are wide open. Every insult gets in. Every opinion finds its way to the throne room. Every unexpected problem causes a riot inside. But the Stoic, they stand at the gate. They don't deny their emotions, but they filter them. Is this useful? Is this real or imagined? Is this urgent or is it ego? And most importantly, will this matter tomorrow? If the answer is no, they let it pass. Because they've learned it. Reacting is easy. Responding is power. Let's get practical. Here's how you begin to train this. 1. Build the pause. Between stimulus and response, there is a gap. Most people never find it. They react the moment emotion flares. You build that gap. Go with breath. When you feel triggered, inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Hold. Exhale for 6 seconds. You've just interrupted the spiral. Now you have space to choose. 2. Label the emotion. Not I'm angry. But this is anger rising. Not I'm panicking. But this is fear moving through me. This shift, called meta-minus cognition, turns you from a victim into an observer. And observers don't drown. They navigate. 3. Ask the Stoic question. Right now, in this moment of emotional intensity, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, let it go. You don't suppress. You release. You return to what's yours, your response, your voice, your energy. 4. Practice spree minus reaction training. Each morning, visualize the moment you're most likely to lose control. A co-worker interrupts you. Your partner criticizes you. Your parents say the thing again. Play the scene. Now rehearse your response. Calm tone. Clear eyes. Grounded words. Over time, this mental training becomes physical reflex. You rewire your nervous system. You become unshakable not because the world got quieter, but because you stop needing to scream to feel seen. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man named Isaiah. Brilliant, talented, but volatile. One insult, one delay, one perceived disrespect, and he exploded. It cost him jobs, relationships, his sense of self, minus worth. Until one day, a mentor told him, "You think they're triggering you, but they're just showing you where you haven't healed." That line hit hard. He started studying Stoicism, practicing the pause, writing down what he felt, not reacting to it. 6 months later, someone called him out in a meeting. Old Isaiah Whittle snapped. New Isaiah? He smiled, took a breath, said calmly, noted. The room froze. His team leaned in. That's the day he became a leader. Not because he got louder, but because he became still. You can do the same, but it starts with a decision. Today, I choose to master my mind before the world tries to do it for me. Because once you control your reactions, no one can use them against you. You become unreadable in the best way. Not cold, calm, not disconnected, disciplined, not passive, poised. You become the kind of person who walks into chaos and doesn't flinch, because you've already rehearsed this moment in your mind. And when your mind is still, your strength becomes silent and therefore unstoppable. Stop chasing approval, because real freedom begins where validation ends. There is a prison so common, most people don't even realize there. You can't see its walls, but you feel them every time you hesitate to speak your truth. Every time you edit yourself so you don't offend. Every time you smile when you want to scream. Every time you trade honesty for applause. It's the prison of approval. And it's built from one belief. I need them to like me, or I don't know who I am. Let's break that today. Because if you want a mind so strong it terrifies people, you must start by releasing the thing that weakens most. The hunger to be liked. It sounds simple, But this one need quiet, unspoken. Desperate is responsible for more misery than any external event ever could be. The Stoics knew this. They taught that peace does not come from being admired, it comes from being aligned. Seneca wrote, "You are not a victim of the world, but of your own expectations." What is the expectation that enslaves most people? That they must be approved of to be okay. Think about that. Every day, you wake up and wonder, will they like this version of me? Will this post get enough engagement? Will my friends still accept me if I grow past them? And when the answer feels uncertain, you shrink. You soften your truth. You hold back your real power just to feel safe. But let me ask you, what has people minus pleasing ever given you that lasted? Temporary praise? Short minus lived belonging. And what did it cost? Your edge. Your clarity. Your ability to walk alone and still feel whole. Here's the hard truth. As long as you need approval to feel confident, your power is least. And anyone can revoke it. But the moment you say, I would rather be rejected for who I am than loved for who I'm pretending to be, that's the moment you begin to walk free. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Clara. For most of her life, she was the peacemaker, the agreeable one, the one who made everyone feel comfortable while slowly suffocating inside. She kept her real opinions to herself, laughed at jokes that didn't land, stayed quiet when she wanted to speak, until one day, a mentor asked her, "Who are you performing for?" She didn't have an answer, because like most people, she didn't even realize she was performing. That night, she wrote one sentence in her journal: "I'm done negotiating my truth for temporary comfort." It didn't change her life in one day, but over time, she began showing up differently. Clear, unapologetic, still kind but no longer compliant. And what happened? Some people drifted away, but the ones who stayed, they respected her more, because now they were finally meeting her. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing approval, you start attracting what's real. And more importantly, you stop needing to be liked, because you've chosen to be whole. So here's your morning practice. 1. Ask yourself, what truth am I softening today to stay light? Then say it anyway. Even if your voice shakes. Even if it makes people uncomfortable. Clarity is not cruelty. Silence is not kindness. 2. Write this down. I release the need to be understood today. Say it again. Let it echo. Because the moment you stop needing to explain yourself, you begin to embody yourself. 3. Practice micro minus rebellion. Do one small thing today that breaks the performance. Post what you believe, not what's trending. Say no without a reason. Speak first, even if your voice shakes. These are not acts of defiance. They are acts of returning to yourself. 4. Remember, no one's approval will fill the hole left by your own self minus abandonment. No matter how many likes, no matter how many followers, no matter how much applause, if it's not rooted in truth, it's empty. And the deeper you chase it, the more you betray the one person who actually matters. You. So, stop asking, do they like me? Did they agree with my opinion? Am I being accepted? Start asking, did I honor myself today? Did I speak truth even when silence was easier? Did I move with integrity, not performance? Because when you do, you may lose people, but you'll find something more valuable. Self minus respect. And once you have that, you become terrifying in the best way. Because you're no longer swayed by flattery, no longer panicked by rejection, no longer lost in the opinions of people who don't even know themselves. You walk into rooms with calm. You speak with quiet certainty. You move with a kind of clarity that only those who've let go of approval truly know. That's the kind of strength that doesn't need a crown. It wears nothing but truth. And that's what makes it unshakable. Turn pain into power because suffering isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. Everyone talks about strength. Everyone wants to be mentally tough. Everyone wants to be seen as composed, calm, in control. But no one tells the truth. Real strength is not forged in comfort. It's born in the fire you didn't think you'd survive. There is no stoicism without suffering. There is no discipline without disappointment. There is no power without pain. You want a mind that terrifies people? Then you must first walk through the shadows you've been avoiding. Because here's what no one told you. The pain you're hiding from is the very thing that holds your freedom. We live in a world obsessed with avoiding discomfort. Numb it. Escape it. Distract from it. Buy something. Post something. Swipe it away. But the Stoics, they walked right into it. They sat with their pain, their grief, their humiliation, their mortality unasked. What can I learn from this? Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Did you hear that? Suffering isn't the enemy. It's the arena where your true self is revealed. Let's break this down. Pain will visit you. Loss will find you. Failure will sting. Betrayal will cut deep. But what happens next? That's yours. Most people don't know how to handle pain. So they protect it, or they bury it, or they let it define them. But the Stoic, they alchemize it. They ask, what is this here to teach me? Where is the strength hidden inside the sorrow? How can I turn this wound into wisdom? It's not about pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about refusing to become bitter. Because pain that isn't processed becomes poison. But pain that is faced becomes fuel. Let me give you a metaphor. Your pain is a fire. Most people run from it, or try to put it out too soon, or throw more fuel on it with blame, guilt, resentment. But the Stoic? They build a forge from that fire. They place their spirit inside, and not to be destroyed, but to be tempered. Sharper. Clearer. Wiser. Let me tell you about a man named Jordan. His business collapsed. His partner left. His reputation crumbled overnight. He went dark. Until one day, he picked up Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And he read a single line. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He closed the book. And for the first time, instead of asking, why me? He asked, what now? That was the beginning. He stopped blaming. He started breathing. He took long walks, wrote down his thoughts, faced the grief, the rage, the shame. He didn't run from his pain. He listened to it. And in doing so, he found a voice he didn't know he had. Not loud, not polished, but real. And from that voice, he rebuilt. Not the same business, but a stronger man, a quieter mind, a deeper clarity. That's the real transformation. Not success after failure, but self after ego. So let me ask you, what pain are you still carrying? What memory are you still running from? What story are you telling yourself that keeps you small? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped running? What if you sat with the discomfort without trying to fix it? What if you stopped saying, this shouldn't have happened, and started asking, what now? Because the moment you face your pain not with fear, but with curiosity, you realize something. It was here to break you. It was here to build you. And every tear you shed, every disappointment, every rejection, was a chisel carving you into someone the world doesn't recognize. Someone solid. Someone who doesn't flinch anymore. Not because they're numb, but because they've already been through the fire. So here's your practice. 1. Name your pain. Don't hide it behind humor or hustle. Say this hurt me. Own it. That's strength. 2. Sit with it. 10 minutes. Eyes closed. No distraction. No solution. Just presence. Ask what's really under this. 3. Extract the lesson. Right. This showed me where I still abandoned myself. This revealed what I was avoiding. This taught me how strong I already am. 4. Decide who you'll be now. Because your pain is not your identity. It's your initiation. And the Stoic path, it doesn't save you from hardship. It trains you to become the kind of person who walks through hardship and emerges not destroyed, but refined. So yes, feel the pain, grieve the loss, rage, cry, collapse if you must. But when the dust settles, stand up, straighten your spine, and say, I'm still here. Because that's what makes your mind powerful. Not that it avoids pain, but that it learns to turn pain into peace. Set boundaries because peace requires protection. Let's be honest. You can meditate every morning. You can journal every night. You can quote Marcus Aurelius until your tongue dries out. But if you don't know how to say no, if you can't protect your peace, if you let everyone and everything have access to your energy, then all that inner work leaks. Because what good is stillness? If you allow chaos to keep knocking at your door and you open it with a smile. Let's make something clear. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are the invisible architecture of a strong mind. The line between what is yours and what is not. The space where peace can breathe. Where focus can live. Where clarity can grow. The Stoics didn't write essays on boundaries. They lived them. They knew the importance of guarding what's inside and refusing to be pulled by every demand outside. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential. Which brings a double satisfaction doing less better. Let's translate that. A powerful mind is not one that does everything. It's one that knows what matters and protects it ruthlessly. So ask yourself, how much of your exhaustion is coming not from what you're doing, but from what you're tolerating? The conversation you didn't want to have but said yes to. The project you should have declined but didn't want to disappoint. The person who drains you, but you keep around out of guilt or fear. That's not strength. That's leakage. And over time, your inner world starts to run not from outside attacks, but from your own inability to say, this is my line. You may not cross it. Here's the thing. Most people think boundaries are for pushing people away. But real boundaries, they're how you invite the right people to come closer. Because when you define your limits, you create the conditions for real connection. Not performance. Not silent resentment. But honest presence. Let me give you a metaphor. Think of your mind like a garden. Without boundaries, anyone can walk in, stomp on the flowers, leave trash behind, steal the fruit. But when you build a fence, you're not shutting people out. You're telling them, this is sacred. If you wish to enter, come with care. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Yara. She was the strong one in every circle, the listener, the problem minus solver, the emotional sponge. But inside, she was unraveling. Burnout. Disconnected. Hello. One day, after a weekend of back minus to minus back favors, she collapsed. Not physically, emotionally. Because the weight of being available had finally broken her. Her therapist gave her one sentence. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and still love myself. That changed everything. Yara started small. She stopped replying immediately. She left group chats. She said no to invitations that didn't feel alive. And what happened? Some people got upset. Some disappeared. But for the first time in years, she felt alive. That's what boundaries do. They don't make you cold. They make you clear. So here's your practice. 1. Define what drains you. List 5 things you keep saying yes to that feel like self minus abandonment. Now ask what would happen if I said no. 2. Write your non-minus negotiable list. I don't explain myself to people who don't listen. I don't debate my worth. I don't apologize for protecting my energy. I don't say yes out of guilt. Make these your internal code. Live by them even if it costs you approval. 3. Set boundaries without over-minus explaining. A boundary doesn't need a paragraph. It needs a decision. You don't have to convince. You don't need to soften your truth. Sometimes, that doesn't work for me is enough. 4. Accept the consequences. Not everyone will like the new you. The one who doesn't people minus please. The one who doesn't apologize for needing space. The one who doesn't answer every message instantly. But those who are meant for you, they'll adjust. Because what they really want isn't access. It's authenticity. And boundaries are the price of admission. So from now on, remember, you are not meant for protecting your peace. You are not called for walking away from chaos. You are not broken for needing space. You are simply awake. And awakened minds don't give their energy away lightly. They protect it. Because they know always happen. This life is short. This mind is sacred. And this moment is mine. Think for yourself because the herd will always choose comfort over truth. Most people are not thinking. They're reacting. Echoing. Reposting. Following trends. Borrowing beliefs. Wearing borrowed values like outfits they never stop to tailor. And if you ask them, why do you believe this? They'll say, well, everyone says. I heard this one guy say, it just feels right. Isn't that what we're all supposed to think now? Supposed to. That phrase right there, that's where your mind dies. Because supposed to is not based on reason. It's based on approval. And as long as your thinking is tied to the need for approval, you'll never think clearly. The Stoics warned about this centuries ago. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. In other words, don't borrow your beliefs. Test them. Live them. Bleed for them. Otherwise, they're not yours. You're each just wearing a mask and calling it conviction. So how do you reclaim your mind in a world designed to distract and divide you? You start with a hard truth. Independent thinking is not comfortable. It's lonely. It's quiet. It's full of doubt. But it's also the only path to a mind that no one can control. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat with a belief you've held for years? And asked, is this true? Do I believe this because it's rational or because it's familiar? Have I tested this against the opposite perspective? If the answer is never or rarely, then your belief isn't a belief. It's an inheritance. And most inherited beliefs are fear-minus based, not truth-minus based. But you're different. You're not building a mind that agrees with everyone. You're building a mind that stands alone if necessary for its real. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine the collective mind as a current. It moves fast, loud, emotional, trending. Most people are swept away by it. But the independent thinker, they don't swim with the current. They dive deeper. Where it's still, where it's quiet, where clarity waits. Because only in that depth can you hear your own voice. Not your ego, not your fear, not the algorithm. You. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Raphael. Everyone around him followed the same career path. Same beliefs, same status games, same ideas. He started asking questions. Deep ones. Why do we measure success this way? Why do I feel like I'm playing a game I didn't choose? Why do I agree out loud, but feel sick inside? Those questions cost him friends. They labeled him difficult, contrarian, too intense. But eventually, He found others who were asking the same questions, not because they wanted to rebel, but because they couldn't live another day as someone else's echo. And that's when Raphael stopped feeling alone, because independent thinking doesn't isolate you. It liberates you. And once you're free, you start attracting others who are free too. That's when conversations shift from shallow agreement to genuine inquiry. That's when life gets real. So here's your Stoic practice. 1. Question one belief per week. Pick something you take for granted. Success, relationships, status, even your own values. This, who gave this to me? Have I ever challenged it? If this belief disappeared tomorrow, what would change? 2. Read the opposite viewpoint genuinely. Don't strawman. Don't roll your eyes. Read with curiosity. Because if you're scared to hear the other side, you're not thinking. You're defending. 3. Speak your truth even when your voice shakes. This is the test. Do you say what you believe? Or do you wait to see what's popular, safe, likable? Courage is not the absence of fear. It's refusing to lie just to belong. 4. Create time for solitude. You cannot think clearly in constant noise. You need mental wilderness places without consensus. That's where your thoughts grow teeth. That's where your voice becomes recognizable. And when that voice speaks, you won't need others to agree. Because it won't come from reaction. It will come from reflection, from lived experience, from tested values, from truth you've earned. And that, more than any title or performance, is what gives a human being real power. Not being right, being rooted. So stop asking, will this make sense to everyone? Will I get canceled? Will this get likes? Will this offend? Start asking, is it true? Because truth, when spoken by someone who no longer fears being misunderstood, has a strange effect. It makes noise tremble. It makes pretense evaporate. It makes empty minds fall silent. That's what makes you terrifying, not because you dominate, but because you can't be programmed. And in a world of echo chambers, original minds don't just stand down. They lead. Act from reason, not emotion, because feeling is natural, but mastery is a choice. Emotion is not weakness. Let's start there. To feel is not a flaw. To care is not cowardice. To cry is not failure. But to be ruled by emotion? That is the beginning of your downfall. Because in every moment, one of two forces is leading your life. Emotion or reason. And the Stoics made their choice. They trained themselves day after day to act not from what they felt in the moment, but from what was true, right, and aligned regardless of how it felt. That's not suppression. That's sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius, faced with betrayal, pressure, and war, wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." No caveats. No exceptions for when you're angry, tired, triggered, lonely. Because if your values disappear when your mood changes, then you never had values. You had convenience. Let's make this real. You get criticized. The emotion rises: defensiveness, anger, the urge to clap back. But reason says, is their opinion actually true? Will reacting serve my purpose? You get ghosted. The emotion says, I'm not enough. But reason reminds, their silence is not my reflection. Their absence is clarity. You fail. The emotion screams, you're a fraud. But reason whispers, failure is feedback. Adjust and continue. You see? Emotion screams, but reason responds. Emotion wants speed, but reason values precision. Emotion wants vengeance, but reason moves with virtue. And if you can pause just long enough for reason to catch up, you win. Not over others, over yourself. Because here's what the Stoics knew. A man who conquers the world but cannot master his emotions is still a slave. Let me ask you, when was the last time you did something you knew was wrong, but it felt good in the moment? That's emotion leading. And what did it cost you? Time? Trust? Self minus respect? And how often do you say things you don't mean, do things you regret, spiral into stories that aren't real just because your emotion needed to be louder than your logic? That's not freedom. That's unconscious reaction. And it's avoidable. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Theo. Brilliant strategist, but impulsive. He'd ruin negotiations with ego. Start fights with lovers over small slights. Feel guilt the next morning, but repeat the pattern anyway. One day, after a broken friendship, he wrote a note to himself. You can't live in a world of logic, but be ruled by emotion. Choose who leads. From that moment, everything changed. He created a rule: no decision when angry, no message when bitter, no action until he could answer. Is this emotion? Or is this me? He didn't become robotic. He became powerful. Because now, when emotion knocks, he opens the door slowly, listens, learns, but doesn't hand over the keys. You can do the same. You must do the same. Because emotion is a messenger, not a master. It tells you what's happening inside, but you decide what happens next. That's Stoic control. And here's how you practice it. 1. Identify your emotional hot zones. What triggers you fastest? What always pulls you off course? List them. Prepare for them. 2. Create a rule: pause. When emotion arises untagged, say out loud, I am feeling, but I don't move until I'm clear. Wait 10 minutes. Wait a day, if needed. This is how you build your self-minus command. 3. Create a virtue filter. Ask, is this action justifiable if I weren't feeling this? Would I be proud of this in 24 hours? Does this move me closer to who I said I want to be? If not, don't do it. Your feelings are real, but not all of them are true, and not all of them deserve your behavior. 4. Practice emotional transmutation. Take what you feel, pain, anger, doubt, and convert it into fuel. Pain, discipline; anger, focus; fear, planning; loneliness, self-minus intimacy. That's alchemy. That's how warriors turn darkness into strength. Because emotion isn't your enemy. It's your raw material. And when you learn to work with it, not for it, you become unstoppable. So from now on, don't suppress your emotion, but never submit to it. Listen, learn, then let reason lead. Because when you act from alignment, not reactivity, your power becomes undeniable. You no longer explain. You no longer react. You no longer beg. You will calm, clear, relentless. And people will wonder, how do they move like that? But they'll never understand, because they've never met someone who feels deeply, but only acts from truth. That's not Stoicism as a concept. That's Stoicism as a force. And now, that force is yours. We are currently giving away a free e-book, 12 Stoic lessons that will change your life. To receive your gift, simply follow the channel and leave a comment that says, I have followed, or I would like to receive the gift. We will reply with the download link directly below your comment.